Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining the webinar today on zAgileConnect. We're excited to have you, and we're also excited to share with you some of the new features that are part of the summer 2015 release of zAgileConnect, which we are hoping to push out the door within the next couple of weeks. So we want to start first. Here's our agenda. What we like to do is for some of you that are joining us for the first time, tell you a little bit about zAgile and some of our products, and then we will quickly jump into why Salesforce and JIRA integration should matter to support teams in particular. We'll talk about zAgileConnect and its value proposition towards this integration, and then quickly jump into a demo of zAgileConnect. We'll provide both an overview of the features that are pertinent to those who are joining for the first time, but also point out all of the things that are new as part of the 2015 release. We have planned about an hour for the webinar, and the demo will be roughly around 20 to 30 minutes. We'll follow up with a summary, and then we'll take Q&A. So please feel free to post questions as they come up, and we'll just take them in that sequence at the end of the webinar. So let's talk about a little bit about zAgile. So zAgile was founded in 2006, and it's based in San Francisco. And what's important is that from the very beginning, the company was founded with a mission and vision to integrate tools, teams, and processes across the enterprise, in particular, across sales, support, and product development. We're amongst our partners. We have Salesforce, Atlassian, Zendesk, and others. And of course, our growing list of customers, as well as we urge you to check out some of the press coverage that we've had in the past few years. In terms of our product family, we have two different families of products. There's zAgileConnect, which we will talk about today. zAgileConnect provides very powerful integration between Salesforce and JIRA. And it supports both JIRA Cloud and JIRA Server. So a single Salesforce package supports both types through different integrations. But we also have the Wicked Smart family of products, which is basically integrating Confluence, JIRA, and a number of other tools within engineering. And on top of that, we offer solutions for product management and test management. So let's now talk about why Salesforce and JIRA integration matters. And in that context, we'll look at where the time is spent by support teams. So first, there's collaboration with customers and product engineering. Collaboration takes a lot of time because it typically involves towards the resolution of a case. It involves exchanging and sharing a lot of information. It involves tracking issue status and product engineering related to a case. So anything that has been escalated to engineering, trying to keep track of what's happening and when a resolution can be delivered to a customer. And of course, searching existing knowledge base. I mean, this is really beyond just Salesforce knowledge base. Within the enterprise, are there existing solutions? Is there any documentation? And so on. That could provide fairly quick answers to customers requesting information or reporting problems. And so now let's talk about zAgileConnect. And the reason I pointed out those three areas is because it is where most of the time is spent. And it's also our focus. So with zAgileConnect, in integrating Salesforce and JIRA together, we really look at what does the support agent need in terms of becoming more efficient and in being able to rapidly turn around customer reported cases, problems, requests for information, and so on. So we focused on collaboration between support teams and product development. Collaboration typically involves exchanging comments, providing some additional information, either through comments or attachments, whether it's screenshots or logs or anything related to a problem being reported. So it all comes within the larger scope of sharing case-related information. Then there's tracking. So tracking starts with escalating an issue from within Salesforce and then being able to provide more information to product teams within the context of that issue. It could be anything like a product code or some other, the environment that a customer is reporting and so on. Being able to edit the issue within Salesforce, again, as engineering begins to work on it, if they need some more details, transitioning issues through workflow states. So that's common scenarios there would be if product development teams have closed an issue and you want to reopen it because maybe the resolution or the solution back to the customer wasn't satisfactory. Or conversely, if the situation is resolved with the customer, then you can also just close the issue, so engineering no longer has to deal with it. Tracking issue activity via chatter, so just to make it easier. So we've looked at a lot of different ways that support teams can know what's happening to any of these escalations within engineering. And then, of course, reporting on case and issue metrics at the account level, at the case level. How many of these issues have been escalated to engineering? What are the status? What is the aging, for example, of various issues related to an account that they're waiting on for resolution? And then finally, searching. So in this integration, since it ties Salesforce and JIRA together, we also looked at providing search that allows you to search JIRA issues from within Salesforce. So with that in mind, let's jump into a demo. And we will first start with essentially a list view of cases. So here's a list of all of my cases, and we're using the console view here, but it's not necessary for the integration to actually work. Now, within this view, I'll first point out something new that we have introduced, which is a custom field, which is a formula type that you can add to case object and essentially add it to any view, including this one, as you can see. That will give you essentially highlight if there are any JIRA issues associated with this case. So you can now see it at the view level rather than having to go directly into the case to see whether or not there is it has been escalated to engineering. So you will see, for example, this icon here that represents a single JIRA issue associated with these cases, and then here this represents multiple JIRA issues associated with this case. So from within this view, you can directly click on this and actually look at the issues themselves. So this one looks like it has quite a lot of issues associated with it. You can go to this, for instance, which has only a single one, and it will give you basically all of the fields that you have selected to view within the context of a related JIRA issue. directly. So that's one starting point. Now, the same field, of course, can be added in the context of an account. So if we're looking at the global media account, for example, and we can go to the related cases, you'll see the same thing. So these are all of the cases associated with the account. And of course, here's all the JIRA issues, one or many, that are linked to each one of the cases. And again, I can also navigate from there directly to the issue to look at some additional information. And then, of course, the rest of the navigation is also available here. So if you click on this, it will give you all of the details associated with the issue. So let's go back. I mean, starting with this, let's now go back and create a new case, and then we'll walk you through the rest of the flow and how you will start to establish a link with JIRA. So what we have, actually, just for convenience, is we'll send an email that will automatically create a case within this instance. So there you go. So we have a new case. And so as the case comes in, whether it's coming through email or whether it's created manually, I'll also now start show you some additional new things that we're providing with the next release. So first, you'll see we've added a couple of console components, and these are of course optional. You can add them if you want. This one here basically is a search component, and I'll also show you how you can configure them fairly easily. But first, they're just part of the layout, so you can go to Custom Console Component View, and there are two Visualforce pages that we make available. So one that represents issue activity and the other one that represents issue search. So first, I'll just talk about issue search. So what's happened is that a case has been reported recently. And before anything happens in the context of escalation, what you can do here is see that there may be already some existing issues in JIRA that are similar to what has been reported. What we're doing here is that we take the case subject and we essentially do a JIRA search from within Salesforce, matching the various tokens that are there within the subject. So this basically gives you automatically a list of the top 10 issues that match, so that you can see that maybe there's already something similar that exists related to a problem, and you don't really have to escalate this. As you're looking at these, we are also providing now pop-up views, so that you don't have to actually go too far in terms of figuring out the rest of the details associated with this issue. So here's 417. It looks like it's a similar problem. It's closed already, so maybe there is a resolution for it that's out there. And we can look at the rest of the details if you click on the issue key. If you decide, for example, that this one actually matches up with what this particular case is about, then you can just drag it and link it. So again, this is one example of where you can establish some connection between a case and a JIRA issue that exists. And now this capability of search has always been there with zAgileConnect. I mean, this is basically the same functionality that we were offering earlier through this button that gives you suggested issues. So it will do the same thing. But now we have added console components and made it available in console components just to make it easier for the support agents. You can also configure these. So before I move off of the console components, I'll show you that for the for example, the search or the suggested issue component, you can select to say suggest if the case has no issue, or always give me any suggestions, or never, in which case there's no action. And then here, for the issue activity, you can request, or you can say don't give me any. So this configuration can be done at the user level. So different users can configure based on their preference, or they can simply turn off these console components or remove them from the view. So that's the first one. I mean, basically, it's giving you suggested issues, and if you want, for example, you can also just go and search for something else. If you're still researching to see, is there something that matches up? Maybe you're looking for different keywords as you're searching. So the same capabilities there that existed here with you either viewing suggested issues or finding something that meets a certain criteria. Then once you've linked an issue, then we also have now this activity console component. So this is something new with 1.7, which will start to give you the most recent activity associated with the JIRA issues that are linked to this case. And again, this is all within the context of tracking what's happening with an issue within engineering. So as the issue gets assigned, as it gets closed, or work progress begins, all of those issue activities that are typically logged in JIRA will be available here, so you can fairly easily see what's happening to an issue rather than having to investigate in JIRA or through additional links. So these are two console components. Now this will give you an activity for all of the related issues, some of the most recent activity, but you can also, if you had multiple issues associated with this, then you can select a specific one just to see what's happening. And this can be fairly useful because you can also see, when was the last time there was something that's happened to this. So if there's been some issues that have been stuck in engineering for a while, then at least this gives you a sense of whether or not there has been any work on it that has started, or has anybody been assigned to it, and so on. So that's of course you can also unlink. So we kind of showed you the first set of features that are there with zAgileConnect that allow you to establish some connection between a case and a JIRA issue. But what we want to do now is to actually create a new issue. So let's take that step next. So let's assume that this case had come in and we actually want to escalate it to engineering. Before doing that, we'll add some additional information that we know would be relevant to engineering. So there's severity. We can also update the case type. It's a problem. It's a new problem. So now that we've provided some additional information here, or updated the case fields, we'll go and create a JIRA issue because it needs to be escalated. So here I'll talk about how the issue creation works and some of the other things associated with this. So we have two different modes of issue creation. So when you first click create or new issue, you'll see a list of all of the fields that have been mapped, and I'll talk about how that is configured. mapped as in where from an existing case field, information is being copied to some corresponding JIRA field, whether it's a standard issue field or a custom field. And then, of course, there are also required fields that are displayed here. So for starters, you have projects. So we show you basically the default project that you have selected that you want to create the issue in. But you can also have a list of all of the others that are available to you if a different project should be selected. And so actually, let's quickly go here to just walk you through how the configuration will work and what it means. So in our zAgileConnect configuration, you have a number of different options that you will configure. So first one is projects. So we have actually selected all of the projects. There's about maybe 50 or 60 projects here that we want to make available to support teams. But in many other scenarios, you may only choose one or a handful of projects that are accessible to support teams. The same thing with issue types. I mean, within JIRA, there may be a lot of different issue types that are used in engineering, but here we only choose 3 that the support team should be able to use for creating issues or for escalating. And from this selection, then you also choose default projects. So that's just to make it very easy to escalate or create an issue. You can choose a project that will come up as a default, same thing with an issue type and priority in terms of default values. And then, of course, as you saw earlier, they can change these to whatever, depending upon that particular case. And before moving on, there's also an option here which has been actually quite relevant to some of our customers for auto creating JIRA issue when a case is created. So this is disabled here or unchecked. But if you check it, then when the case is created, whether it's through email or whether an agent is creating a case, then automatically the information that will be copied over and a JIRA issue will be created and a link established between the two. So there may be scenarios where that is important, but in our typical demo, we actually leave it unchecked. Because we leave it unchecked because the assumption is that escalations will be on a case-by-case basis. No pun intended there. So then I also want to talk about the fields that you saw in issue creation. So this is another new feature that we are adding now with the summer 2015 release, which is 1.7 version. Basically here you can actually now map case fields where the value will be copied directly to some corresponding JIRA field. So here, environment will go into the issue field called environment. Case origin maps to case origin. So we created a custom field in JIRA called case origin just to map it there. Case number, we're mapping it to labels to make it easier to search within JIRA if engineering team is looking for issues related to a particular case number, for example. Description maps to description and subject maps to summary. So this just basic mapping that we're providing, and you can add more, of course, as you have more custom fields available within JIRA, and you want to, carry over certain fields from case to JIRA to, based on whatever the policies are within engineering in terms of information they require. Those can be determined here. Furthermore, there's also an option here that says automatically update issue on case update, which basically means that you have a choice of copying these fields over to JIRA issue the first time when the issue is created, or subsequent times if any of these fields are updated. Do you also want those fields to be updated in JIRA? The reason you want this option is because there are times when engineering will pick up these fields, but then they may update them themselves. And so they don't want to obviously have you write over all the time, every time a case is updated. So it really depends on what which application acts as the source of truth for this information, that you can choose whether or not it's Salesforce that's always going to update, or once it's carried over, then it will be essentially maintained within JIRA. So between these two, in terms of the selection of a default project, issue type, and then of course the copying over of some of the case fields into JIRA, corresponding JIRA fields, you can see all of that is done here, and if we want, we can just create the issue. But we also have the option of specifying additional fields. So here, for example, I'll go to another project. Let's try this one, since it's got a number of different values associated with it. So we'll basically, if we want, for instance, or if engineering requires that we specify other things, fixed version, effect version, and so on, components. So you can also provide additional detail, and these values are coming directly from JIRA. So assignee, for example, if we want to actually be able to assign to someone, we can do that right here. Same thing, for example, reviewer. So there's a list of reviewers, so we can potentially select someone and go ahead and create it. So you have both options. You can create quickly, or you can provide some additional information. And once created, let's refresh this view. You'll see that a link has been established with the issue that was just created. And some of the information is also available here. Again, another new feature here, since we're looking at it, is this pop-up. So when you have a related JIRA issue associated with a case, we also make it very easy for you to actually execute workflow transitions directly from the pop-up without having to go anywhere. So if you want to, for example, close the issue, you can do that right here. So whatever the workflow transitions that are available in JIRA and accessible to the integration user will be displayed here for the support agent. And so obviously it can be controlled within JIRA using JIRA permissions. So now let's look at the other side. So we created this issue. Now what we're going to do is go to JIRA to show you what's happening within engineering. So once the issue was created, you can see, for example, description, summary, the case subject, case description have been copied over. You can see the label, components, all of the values are here as they were desired. And then also this has a representation of the case that it's linked to. And we'll also talk about how this is configured, but essentially we have configured from Salesforce. We've chosen a number of fields that we will share, or case attributes that we will share with engineering. And beyond just case attributes, you actually also have access to account, contact, and other information. So more details essentially are available. So basically, this is all of the information that you feel engineering would need to help resolve the case. What's also important here, for example, are is the fact that the updates are bidirectional and in real time. So if, for instance, we go and start progress here, then you would expect to see uh, updates happening. So the status changes to in progress. Same thing, for example, if we change the severity to 1, then let's see, actually, I don't remember if severity is mapped. I'll also maybe try something else here. So let's say existing problem. So if we update the case, well, let me try it again, because yeah, there you go. So basically the updates are happening on both sides. So whatever happens in the issue is updated in Salesforce into that case, and then the same thing here, things that are updated within the context of the case will obviously update the issue directly. And then, so now that you've created an issue, you can see already here, for example, that it's picking up the activity. So whatever is happening for that issue, like environment and description were updated, progress was started, and so on. So you'll start to track it fairly easily, just looking at what's happening in terms of the activity. So beyond just creating the issue, we can also, there's a number of other things to also show you. So actually, before we go there, there's one more thing that I wanted to show here. So let's link that same issue back. So what I want to show is that regardless of whether you have one or many JIRA issues associated with a case, you can look at a lot of details associated with the issue. So what we are now also allowing you to see within Salesforce is these are new tabs that are in the summer 2015 release. So before you had access to all of the issue details here. So not only can you see other attributes that may not be part of that related JIRA Visualforce page. So all the other details are completely accessible. But not only those details, also the case that it's associated with. So if that issue is linked to multiple cases, then you can see if there are other cases that are also waiting on that issue in terms of being resolved. If the issue is similar to another issue, for example, this particular issue seems like it's duplicated by another one in JIRA, you'll see that here. And then finally, we'll also show you if it relates to other issues. So any of the issues that are linked to that will be shown here. So that starts to become more meaningful because now you're looking at this issue. You see that it has an associated case. You see that there's already something duplicated within engineering that is the same. But also there are two others that are related to this. And these could be, for example, if a case is escalated in engineering and the resolution of that case is part of a broader like epic or feature that they are implementing, then they can link those and you'll see whatever the relationship is between that escalated issue and what engineering is working on. So it is possible that they're actually going to resolve it through implementation of something else, but the context is fully available here. Not only that, obviously the other things that you've also seen, you've got the workflow transitions available. And you can also edit the issue. So again, all of the capabilities that you have here will be dependent a lot on how the JIRA permissions are set. So it's really up to you to enable or disable these capabilities. But for now, you can see, for example, comments, work log, activity history. So you can essentially browse a JIRA issue within Salesforce as if you were in JIRA, but you don't have to leave Salesforce for that. You can also edit it. And again, if it required that you provide some additional information once the issue has been created, then you can edit that directly from within Salesforce. So that's now that's one thing in terms of issue creation, issue editing, resolving, workflow transitions. Then on the JIRA side, as we talked about earlier, you have access to one or many Salesforce properties, which has one or many cases that may be linked. So I wanted to point out explicitly here that we do support in zAgileConnect many-to-many relationships between Salesforce case and JIRA issue. That is, both scenarios are very relevant because it is very possible and more than likely that a single issue has multiple stakeholders. Multiple customers may have reported the problem. And conversely, it is also possible that resolution of a case may require multiple JIRA issues. Maybe in one particular case, there are a number of problems the customer is reporting, and so you may need to create multiple cases here so you can track the resolution of each one. Okay, so far what you've seen is the fact that we can link issues fairly easily that exist within JIRA. We showed you how you can do that through search here, but you can also, if you actually know a specific issue that already exists in JIRA that was created earlier, and if you know the issue key, then you can specify that and link directly to that. We also showed you field mapping in terms of how that works, so that you can see how fields like environment and case origin and case number, all of these can be copied into JIRA in JIRA labels or JIRA custom fields, for example. Then we'll also, before leaving this part, we'll also show you a couple of other things from a configuration perspective. So in JIRA, we showed you the Salesforce case properties panel that shows you all of the cases in a tabular form and associated properties. So this is where you configure those. So basically, all the checked items are things that we want to display, and all the other items are things that we're sending in the pop-up rendering. So you can choose all the case properties that you want to share with engineering. You can choose properties of all of the related objects like account and contact, for example. And this will allow you to basically determine what is it that you want to share with engineering, what would be relevant to them as they go about resolving the issue. And it could also, for example, have information about the account type, the SLA, whatever level of categorization that needs to be done for the account so that they can determine the priority with which they want to resolve the issue. Similarly, what do you want to see from a JIRA issue in Salesforce? So what does an agent see? So you can select all of those JIRA fields, including JIRA custom fields, and basically you'll map them to a Salesforce Z issue custom object that we provide as part of the zAgileConnect package. So some of the standard metadata is already there. So we decided that we want issue type, priority status, assignee, and reviewer. These are JIRA custom fields. So we want to map those, and we want to display those. But we also want to pull some of the other fields like effect version, fixed version, component. And we want to pull them but not display them because they are useful for reporting. So these are unchecked because they won't clutter up the panel or the visual force page within Salesforce, but they will be relevant for reporting purposes. So you have a choice of whatever fields that you want to pick. And once you've selected those, then all of the ones that are checked to display will be shown here, but the others will also be available within the context of each issue. So now let's talk about some of the other things. So first, this whole discussion so far has been about escalation and tracking. So now we can also quickly show you some other things. For example, more in the context of collaboration. So how do you exchange comments? So here it's actually fairly easy. Hashtag Jira from Salesforce essentially suggests it's an explicit action to say we want to send a comment to Jira. Because not every comment that is posted here will be sent to Jira. It may or may not be relevant. So we want to send a comment to Jira, and you can also specify, for example, a particular issue that you want to send it to. Or if you do not specify an issue key, then it will send it to all of the related issues. So we will just say, okay, so here's a simple comment. And because this case has two issues associated with it, then since we didn't specify a specific key or an issue key, the comment will go to both. And so you'll see here, for example, customers requesting an update. And there's also a signature associated with a comment. Where did it come from? So it came from this case, and this is the user that was logged in at the time. Same thing, I mean, you would expect that here also in 417 because it's also linked. And so it has a number of comments from different places. So let's see, yeah, here's this one. And it came from this case. Same thing on the other side. So make it easier, again, to be very clear, not all comments from JIRA will automatically go to Salesforce. It's only, it's also an explicit action. So if you want to communicate with the support agent associated with a case, you will do the same thing. You can specify hashtag and then the case number if there are multiple cases, or you can say just type in hashtag Salesforce and it will send it to one or all related cases. So here we'll say and now if we go back to the case and refresh, you will see the comment exchange. So here again, you've got the signature here, basically from this issue, and this is the logged in JIRA user that sent the comment. So this is a fairly simple but straightforward and easy way of collaborating. The context is always going to be there, so you can have comment exchange with engineering, but you can also just add comments there based on your communication with the customer. But those don't necessarily have to clutter up the JIRA issues. So unless it's explicit, it stays here as a private comment. So that's the easy, essentially, exchange of comments between one or many JIRA issues and from JIRA to one or many cases. The other thing is attachment. So, of course, in many scenarios, you will want to also share some attachment with engineering. So let's add something here. We'll just add a screenshot to the case. And now again, attachment sending is also explicit. So you select the issue that you want to send to and click on send attachment. So you may have one or many attachments associated with this case. So it will list all of them. It will list the sizes, and also if any of those exist already in JIRA issue, maybe it was sent already, or so it will also tell you if it's there or not. In this case, there isn't because we just created the issue, so we can just say, okay, go ahead and send attachment. And so now you will see, if I refresh the issue within JIRA, the corresponding, the attachment has been sent already. The same thing applies here. So we can attach a file or a screenshot. Let's do it this way. So first, of course, we need to have the attachment in JIRA. But once the attachment is there, you'll see a little icon. So now you can click on that and it will list the attachments that exist. And you can see that this one already exists in the case. Well, of course, because it came from there, but this is a new one associated with the issue that you want to send. And you can send it. And going back to the case, if you refresh, you will see that attachment. So now you've got both of them. The other thing also, this is now the comments and attachment has been there, so there's nothing new. But what we have done actually, based on inputs that we receive from customers, is that we're also allowing you to use essentially case feeds to share comments with engineering. So you don't actually have to go and create a comment. You can just post something here. So if we say, and this allows you to just send a comment directly from here without going through the process of creating a comment. So it will be the same action as if you had created a comment, except that this is just coming from the feed. So again, this is just to make it easier. There are a number of different ways that you can collaborate or share or exchange information with engineering. And we're continuing to enhance that capability. Okay, so actually I'll quickly now move because we're starting to get close to the end of the hour. The other thing I wanted to also point out is reports. So basically how reports will work is because we are offering a custom object we're packaging as part of zAgileConnect, you can access all of the attributes that you have selected to copy into that from JIRA. And so it's basically you select this Z issue with Z issue SF and case relationship, and this will give you all of the issues and associated cases, and you have access to all the attributes here. So you can basically create your reports based on whatever information that you've chosen to pull from JIRA, and those fields will be available. And then, of course, you can create your own reports and charts as you desire. So reports are supported within Salesforce. And then finally, before I leave this demo, one more last thing that I also want to point out is zAgileConnect also supports Salesforce One and mobile device. So actually, let me right here. So this is essentially the rendering of the case view. I mean, in Salesforce One on an iPhone, and now you can basically interact with this. So you can see, for instance, the case that we just created, and there's an icon here representing that it has multiple JIRA issues associated with it, or for example, this one that has this single JIRA issue associated with it. So we can go to the related section. Oops. And here you'll see JIRA related JIRA issues, and that will give you the issue, some of the issue summary that you've chosen to show. So this is essentially the rendering of the same Visualforce page that you saw on the case layout, but it's rendering it on a mobile device. And also you have access to pretty much all of the capability that's there within the case. So you can click on the issue key, and you can look at the issue detail, for example, comments, activity, and so on. And you can also link, search, perform all of the other actions here. Let's go back to that quickly. So you can link to an existing issue. You can also, for example, find new issue, or actually you can post case comments directly from here. So if you want to, for example, use mobile devices for also tracking, then we're of course supporting it pretty much the same way as we are within the standard case layout. So let me wrap up quickly and then go to questions. So first, what is the zAgileConnect advantage? What are some of the things that we've already shown you? So you've got real-time bidirectional updates. I mean, you've seen that. So whatever's happening on either side, the other is aware. Also, of course, we are always emphasizing this. It's very support team focused. Everything, the flow starts with support agent. They create issues, they link issues. Everything that is happening in JIRA is driven from the support team. And it's also a fast and deep integration. I mean, the installation takes about 30 to 45 minutes. Of course, you've seen the depth of this integration. I mean, we've essentially brought JIRA right into Salesforce for the convenience of the support team, so that they don't have to go to two different applications to track what they need to track in terms of resolving customer issues. And as I had pointed out earlier, it's one package in Salesforce that connects to both JIRA Cloud and JIRA Server. So that as we evolve the product, as you've seen, you'll see the same benefits regardless of what JIRA you have. And actually, I will skip these sections, and let's just get into Q&A. Salesforce, zAgileConnect is available, the package on Salesforce App Exchange. It's also the JIRA components, whether it's JIRA Cloud or Server, are available in the marketplace. And of course, you can download for 30-day eval. And if you have any questions, please email to sales@zagile.com.